Hi, I am samyogi. Today is October 3rd, 2025. Welcome back to the Krishnamurti podcast. This is episode 69 and we are on the sixth talk at Omen, the Netherlands. We shall discuss a question and answer. The question is, I am in disharmony with my thoughts, feelings, actions, and therefore dissatisfied. The reason is there is no understanding between my husband and myself, but I cannot go away from him because he is ill. What is your advice so that I may come to a better understanding? Krishnamurti replies, first of all, we cling to people because we ourselves are empty. We hope that the other will enrich us. That is the reason why we possess people. So that creates disharmony too. Now, that is one side. The questioner wants to know what she shall do because she is dissatisfied living with that person, the husband. Either you are relying on him for your sufficiency, which he does not supply, which makes you feel dissatisfied, or you want to give to him and he will not accept, and therefore you are still dissatisfied, or you do not like him so you feel dissatisfied. If you think about those 3 points, then the question will be answered. I do not advise what you shall do. You know, we rely on each other for our strength, for our completeness. Husband and wife, brothers and sisters, etc. When that is not supplied, we feel utterly at a loss and we become thoroughly dissatisfied. We look to another for our completion. We look to another for love, for encouragement. Because we are lonely, we turn to the other and we increase that loneliness. That loneliness becomes deeper and deeper. Only we are trying to run away from it. So I'll take a pause here and just reflect on what we heard. Because of loneliness, we seek encouragement from our partner, from our wife, husband, from our brother, sister. We turn to someone else and we increase that loneliness. That loneliness doesn't get filled. It becomes deeper and deeper, Krishnamurti says. And if you listen enough to Krishnamurti, you will know that he will say, face it, don't run away from it. Then you will get more and more exasperated, more and more despondent. And despondency is not religion, as a great preacher has said, not Krishnamurti. Another preacher has said, despondency is not religion. So coming back to Krishnamurti, let's hear what he says next as part of this answer. Krishnamurti says that loneliness becomes deeper and deeper, only we are trying to run away from it. So when you realize that, when you really become aware that no one can fulfill you, can give you full completeness, except through your own comprehension, then you put up with minor details as having a husband ill in bed, then the problem does not arise. The question, choice of whether to stay or leave, does not arise. Please think it over. So, I'll make a comment, pause here briefly. Krishnamurti had said in a talk that I listened to on YouTube, someone told me that choiceless awareness is the essence of religion. He tells that to the crowd. It is he himself who has propelled this intuition or this insight, this pure intuition or this insight, that awareness should be choiceless, without choice. Now you will wonder why I need choices. So let's listen to what Krishnamurti says next. The question, choice of whether to stay or leave, does not arise. Please think it over. Choice arises, as in this case, what you should do when you feel your husband, your brother, etc. cannot give you that fullness. Therefore you say, to whom shall I turn? Another man or another woman, in the hope that another shall give you, instead of the one that you have already. You say, to whom shall I turn? Another man or another woman, in the hope that another shall give you, instead of the one that you have already. Whereas, if you realize fully, not mentally agree, not intellectually, if you really feel and think that it is utterly impossible for anyone to complete you, then you will act irrespective of circumstances. The answer ends here, and you can reflect on it. I'll just comment that he says, then you will act irrespective of the circumstances. There will be action no matter where you are. India, Botswana, Auckland, New Zealand, Australia, Canada, Europe, the Middle East, South America, Mexico, North America, United States, doesn't matter. You will act. Okay. Let's reflect on that and I'll move to the next question. The answer is short. Question: is impersonal love possible while sex forces are still driving one into bonds of love, which, however highly tuned, are still personal? How far are you in favor of recommending to guide those forces into higher centers by means of occult practices? Krishnamurti answers, life is creative energy. It is the mind that splits it up as mental, emotional, and sexual. And because you are caught up in passion, lust, you have divided it and you want to transmute it somehow or other through practices. Because you do not live a complete life, there is a strong passion which dominates. I say, if you live completely, there will not be this conflict of emotion, sex, mind. The answer ends. So here, if you notice and if you have listened to the prior podcasts, in addition to mental and emotional or mind and heart, he has added sexual, because the question was on that. See, the question was, is impersonal love possible while sex forces are still driving and are personal? And the second part of the question was, how far are you in favor of recommending to guide those forces into higher centers by means of occult practices? So, if you remember, this is August 4th, 1933, almost a century ago. And in Holland, in Europe, they are talking about occult practices which have been there for thousands of years. The higher centers, the centers are also manufactured, imagined as chakras in the subtle body. I will not get into that because that will take us away from the reflection, the listening and the reflection. So I have a blog, The Art of Listening. It's samrockcafe.wordpress.com. You can look it up. I have reflected on some of these episodes as blogs. I try to do it daily and now maybe twice a week. But coming back, I was not prepared for this. The question, this is the last question on August 4th, 1933. Because after that, we will be into the 7th talk at Oman, Holland. And we shall discuss the 7th talk, which is only questions and answers, in another episode, maybe the next episode, episode 70. But the last question is, we have time. It is a repeat of the prior question, the second part of the prior question. The question is, how far are you in favor of recommending to guide those forces to higher centers by means of occult practices? Krishnamurti replies, we think by practices, by doing a thing over and over again, we are gaining something. I do not believe in practices. I think they are detrimental. Please do not say, must I not practice a piano? What you call occult practices is to instill in your mind a certain set of ideas which you repeat, which you practice, so that this thing against which you are fighting is gradually submerged, suppressed, and you think that you have transmuted sex to a higher plane. Sex is sex, you cannot transmute it. But you can be either caught in that energy which becomes devastating, or you live in that energy so wholly that your acts are complete. This you have to think over very carefully. Please do not say, I feel sexual, therefore I am going to live completely in it, because our minds and hearts are so little awakened, so little ripe, mature. We take delight in passion that fills our minds and our hearts. The whole of modern civilization is built on it, on sensation. Because we are so little and we hope through practices to conquer that littleness which exists in our mind and our heart, and therefore transmute our sex to a higher plane. So I'll pause briefly. Nothing special that he has said, except that he says sex is sex, you cannot transmute it. Now if you read books like Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill, he talks about transmuting the sex energy to something else. And he says you should have discovered by the age of 40, 50, 60, what have you. And there are other things that I will not get into in the book, which come from India, like autosuggestion, which is nothing but yoga nidra. Now let's come back to what Krishnamurti says next. So long as the mind and the heart are caught up in little things, then you will have all these sexual problems. If mind and heart are rich, full, great, then these things will have secondary importance. If you are truly creative by acting as a complete human being, then this problem does not arise. Then there is no problem. It is only when the mind and heart are divided in action against themselves that there is a problem. And to overcome that division, you want to practice. How absurd. That way you make your mind smaller and smaller. Your heart becomes less and less through these continual practices. So to really understand and be free, find out if your mind and heart are crippled with conformity. Where there is conformity, there will be no release of life. There is conformity so long as you are seeking a reward, an achievement, the setting up of authority, and hence the limitation, the curtailment of freedom. So long as there is limitation of mind and heart, all these other problems will exist. And if you are seeking a solution, when you say transmuting, that is what you are doing. Seeking a solution, a way out, an escape. You are merely limiting that creative energy, which is thought, feeling, and everything. Your whole being. So he talked about creative energy and curtailment of freedom. I encountered this word for the first time in all these podcasts. Previously he has talked about limitation, impedance. He hasn't used the word impedance. He says impedes, the barriers or the hindrances like tradition, prejudice, authority, security, fear, postponement, impede action, prevent complete action, which he advises as a teacher for us to get into. Face life, he says, completely without fear, without postponing. And people don't do that. They have their conditioning. If you have read Krishnamurti, you know what conditioning is. They act with their conditioning, whether they are American, Indian, black, white. They have their prejudice against everything. They have their traditions, whether American or Indian, And these conditionings are deep and prevent us from acting fully. So Krishnamurti says, if you are new, you will not know, but if you have listened to or read for some time, you know that he talks about breaking past all conditioning, and that is fullness of life, that is ecstasy of life, as he talks about. And talk is cheap, so I'll end here. Except that he said you are merely limiting that creative energy. Since we have some time, we have already gone past 20 minutes, so I'll wrap it up very quickly. From Krishnamurti's notebook, 9th October 1961. Let's listen in as I read it out. The intense energy of life is always there, night and day. It is without friction, without direction, without choice and effort. It is there with such intensity that thought and feeling cannot capture it, to mold it according to their fancies, beliefs, experiences, and demands. It is there with such abundance that nothing can diminish it, but we try to use it, to give it direction, to capture it within the mold of our existence, and thereby twist it to conform to our pattern, experience, and knowledge. It is ambition, envy, greed that narrow down its energy, and so there is conflict and sorrow. The cruelty of ambition, personal or collective, distorts its intensity, causing hatred, antagonism, conflict. Every action of envy perverts this energy, and so there is conflict and sorrow. Every action of envy perverts this energy, causing discontent, misery, fear. With fear there is guilt and anxiety and the never-ending misery of comparison and imitation. It is this perverted energy that makes the priest and the general, the politician and the thief. This boundless energy made incomplete by our desire for permanency and security is the soil in which grow barren ideas, competition, cruelty, and war. It is the cause of everlasting conflict between man and man. So did you listen? He said, about this energy of life, this intense energy of life. It is there with such abundance that nothing can diminish it. It is there with such abundance that nothing can diminish it. But we try to use it, to give it direction, to capture it within the mold of our existence, and thereby twist it to conform to our pattern, experience, and knowledge. So, what is a pattern? If you have listened to this podcast, you know that the patterns are set by the society that we live in, the values and we act according to these values. That is the pattern. Then he gets into ambition, envy, greed that narrow down its energy. There is conflict and sorrow, etc. Every action of envy perverts this energy. And that is true. I have said in the past, in a comment based on what I learned while doing these podcasts, that craving perverts discernment. So I said that in a comment, and probably there is envy. The author of the original passage, which is actually a copy and paste from jkrishnamurti.org, probably there is envy, did not respond because his friend came in earlier and asked, there is something going on, you know, what are you up to? You have discovered something new about Krishnamurti. And I quoted back, there is nothing new under the sun. But to this passage I responded, craving or want, there was the word want, W-A-N-T. So I just responded, want or craving perverts discernment. So someone else went and liked it, but not the author. Probably there is envy, we never know. Or he is acting busy because he cuts and pastes thrice daily and creates 3 quotes. So I'll end with that example. Here, this is 1961, so it's like 28 years after the Holland talks, but the teaching is the same. He is saying here, it is this perverted energy that makes the priest and the general, the politician and the thief, and if I might add, the businessman. This boundless energy made incomplete by our desire for permanency and security is the soil in which grow barren ideas, competition, cruelty, and war. It is the cause of everlasting conflict between man and man. So the conflict is going on between the same folks in Ukraine. The Ukraine-Russia war, between the same folks in Gaza, Palestinians and Israelis. You know it. Thank you. You have a wonderful day.